It's that time again where I test every single shop in the whole of Gielinor to see which is the most profitable, and I'm not sure if Jagex have done some sort of bot nuke, but they have never been as profitable as they are right now. So much so that I've done 15 this year, and there's also a ton of bonus clips throughout the video. For all of these methods, you want to use Runelight and Menu Entry Swapper, and under there you'll see a UI Swaps option, and then there's a Shop Buy and a Shop Sell Shift Click option. And you can literally select any amount you want, and then whenever you're selling or buying from a shop, if you hold down the Shift key, it will instead buy or sell by that amount that you select in there. First up, we have the food shop in Canifis. The only requirements for this are Priest and Peril quests being completed, and I think this is just because of the forestry update. Jagex have announced that cooked meat may be one of the items that we use a lot of in that skill. With all of these shops, I'm going to start off with 1,000,000 GP, buy as much as I can for 5 minutes, and then multiply that amount by 12 to give me what I'd make per hour. At number 14, we have the farming shop just southeast of Falador, and it's a little bit unique in how you have to do this one. But first, I've decided to do plant cure from this shop, although it is slightly more profitable right now to do gardening trials, but we don't sell many a day on the GE, whereas we sell tons of the plant cure. So you have the choice, you can go for the item that's a slow seller, or you can go for the item that's a fast seller and make a little bit less profit. With this one, there isn't a bank nearby, but you can use the leprechaun just by the farming patches. And all you do is click exchange on him and deposit whatever items you buy from the shop, and then at the end you can withdraw them as notes. Over 5 minutes I bought 302 plant cure, which made me 57,000 GP, which works out at 684,000 GP per hour. Next we have an item that can be done in free to play, although it is slightly more profitable in pay to play, because in Lunar Isle you can buy 500 thread at a time from the general store, but you can also buy thread in free to play in places like the Fancy Clothes store in Varric or in Rimington. And because it's stackable, you don't need to bank at all, you just hot worlds, buy some more, hot world and repeat. And with Runelight allowing you to buy 50 at a time with just one click, I bought 9,000 in just 5 minutes. So with thread being 10 GP each at the moment, that made me 63,000 GP in just 5 minutes, working out at 756,000 GP per hour. At number 11 we have the Warriors Guild food shop. Now normally potatoes with cheese are a decent profit, but never normally enough to make this shop in the top 10 or top 15 in this case, but there seems to be a massive demand at the minute for cheese and tomato pizzas. Now you can make these into other pizzas by adding toppings to them, which gives XP and can be done at a low level, and it's like people have just woke up to this because the price has suddenly gone through the roof. But those people that buy here haven't realised yet, because the potatoes with cheese are constantly bought out in loads of worlds, but the pizzas aren't. So whilst you want to buy the potatoes with cheese here, it's not detrimental if they're bought out, because the pizzas are making you most of the money. After 5 minutes I made just under 67,000 GP, which is 800,000 GP per hour. At 11 is the Charlotte Village General Store, but this money making can be done in a lot of places, it's just more profitable here. So there are 2 items here which are quite profitable right now, and one is papyrus and the other is the charcoal. And you can get them individually from a lot of places, and because they're both in the same shop here and it's right next to a bank, it's just more profitable per hour, but it can be done in other places. For this one you are going to need stamina potions, or you're going to end up walking after a very short time, so I've added that into the costs. Charlotte Village does require a few low to medium level quests to be done first, but nothing too major, and the items themselves are fairly cheap, so it's good for people with a limited cash stack, and works out at a very respectable 914,000 GP per hour. Before we get into the top 10 and all the 1 million plus money makers, there are some amazing money making shops that I've completely left out of this guide, because if I put them in it, realistically you'll crash the prices, because we buy 100 or less per day of each item. But buying and selling items from clothes shops is very good money for a limited amount of people. And number 10 is the first shop you actually sell to rather than buy from. Now the downside to this type of money maker is it does take a while to buy the items on the GE, but if you leave them overnight or for a few days when you're not playing, they can be some of the best money in the game. It's very easy to do, the wiki literally tells you all of the information now, so you just search the shop on the wiki or in Google and then pick it up from there, and it will show you how much a shop buys the item for as well as the grand exchange price. But the one thing you need to be careful of is every time the shop stock go up, whether that's you that sells an item or somebody else just hopping worlds and doing the same money maker as you, the shop will pay you 2% less per item above its normal stock level. So if you want to do this quickly without all the numbers, what you want to go for is anytime the shop price is 10% more than the GE price, you want to sell 5 at a time, Around 20% more, you want to sell 10 at a time, and because Runelight sells on 5s and 10s, I wouldn't go any higher than that. It's very rare you get any more than that anyway. For selling 5 at a time, the weapons that were worth 96k at the start all sold for 152k in just 3.5 minutes, which is 1 million GP per hour. At 9 is the food shop in Atoll. Now this does require the completion of Monkey Madness 1 to be able to do, but this item is very cheap and you can do this with almost any cash stack. You'll need your Gree and your Monkey Speak amulet to be able to do this, and all you're going to do is buy from the food shop and literally run a few squares away to the bank, deposit it, come back and rinse and repeat. Whilst the other things are profitable, the most profitable right now is the Monkey Nut, so you're just going to buy them. In 5 minutes, the cost of this investment was just 4k to make 87,000 GP profit, so pretty much anyone can do this one, and that is 1.05 million GP an hour. Next one is also very cheap, and it is the dyes in Elite. You can also buy these in Craftiness if you want, but obviously this has a few less requirements, although it does require a few quests to get here. And all of these dyes are between a couple of 100 GP and about 800 GP at most. I think because they're a pain to get in the normal way where you swap with Aggie, but here you literally just teleport out, teleport back in and buy them. Now I'm using the Castle Wars teleport from a Ring of Dueling, as well as an Eternal Crystal, but you can use a normal Crystal teleport seed to come back, you don't have to have the Eternal one. As you can see, dye prices right now are quite high and they only cost 6 GP from the shop, so a ton of profit from this one for very little money, and that one is 1.33 million GP per hour. At number 7, a blast from the past, one that used to be really profitable when you could buy grapes and sell them here, but hasn't been for a long time, is now very profitable again. To buy items from the chest in Lumbridge basement does require a recipe for disaster to be completed, or at least partly completed, but you do get a lower stock amount unless you completely complete the quest, so it is worth doing. The main reason this is good money again is because cooking apples for some reason have trebled in price over the last year. And of course you're stood right on a bank chest, so it's just very quick to buy them and just dump them straight in your bank. But to maximise profit, you also want to buy the pots of flour and the pizza bases as well, although there is a smaller quantity of those. And all you're going to do is buy those out and Hot World, and again very cheap items, so you need very little money to do this one too. After 5 minutes that made 117,000 GP, which works out at 1.4 million an hour. This next one can be done in 2 different ways. The first one is in the Woodcutting Guild, which is slightly more profitable and requires 60 woodcutting to get in. And the other way is to buy Sawmill teleports to use the one in Varrock, and Ring of Duelings to bank and just teleport between the 2 spots buying out the same item. But I did it in the Woodcutting Guild as it is slightly more profitable. In this method, all you need to do is buy out the bolts of cloths and bank them. Now there's not a bank that close, but there is a deposit box just to the east, right by the entrance to where you come into the Woodcutting Guild, where you can bank them really quickly. Again, with this one you are going to need stamina potions as it is quite far from where you buy them to the deposit box. This one works out at 1.47 million GP per hour, and from now on, the prices go a little bit crazy. But before I get onto the top 5, there is one that should have made the top 5, and this is what you need to be very careful of. I checked this method out in the morning and the shop stocks had 0 in them in a few different shops. I bought the items on the G, went back to the same shops, and if you can see, the shop stocks are no longer 0. Now this shop never has any stock in apart from what people sell, meaning if I try to sell them now, I'll actually break even or in some cases lose money. So anytime anyone else is selling to a shop, make sure that you don't, or you check the prices first. This is the jewellery shop in Portsorum, and whilst it didn't make the top 5, if you come here and there's no one else selling, it will be millions of GP per hour. The top 5 are amazing money, but there's a reason for it. So if you skipped until this point, the ones from 10 to 5 are actually probably better for the average player. At number 5 is bagged plants. Now you can buy these in the Farming Guild really quickly, or a little bit slower in Falador without any requirements. And there's a lot of things you can buy from this shop, and a lot of them are very profitable, but you have to be careful because only the bag plant 1, 2 and 3 do we buy a lot of per day. People use it to train construction. The other items people just use for decoration, so they take a lot longer to sell on the G. Make sure to check the price on the wiki before doing this to see which ones are profitable. At the moment it's just bag plant 1 and 3, 2 wasn't. So that's all I bought for this video, and after just 5 minutes I made 222,000 GP off them. A massive jump to 2.67 million GP per hour. And number 4 is another shop that you sell to. Now there's not many items in this shop, far less than the other one, so you'd expect this to be less profit than the weapon shop earlier. But I think just less people know about this shop because all of the prices here are pretty much between 300 and 500 GP below alt price, and that's what you'd normally expect in any shop like this. Again, the downside to this method is you can only buy 70 of each item for 4 hours, so it does take quite a while to buy. So I made an error on this one, so I only had 65 of each to sell, but they cost 613,000 GP, and in just 3.5 minutes was worth 762,000 GP, which works out to 2.76 million GP per hour. And number 3 is something that you can do in many different places, but this is the one I've found to be the best, and this is the Ranging Guild Bow and Arrow shop. Now, in a lot of the other places, the items are starting to be bought out or partly bought out, which obviously raises the price. But when I've come here, not one single shop was bought out, so this seems to be the best, presumably because bots don't have the ranging level to get in the Ranging Guild, even though it only requires level 40. And this is one that you definitely need to test before doing. As a general rule, bronze and iron arrowheads will always be profitable, although not a lot of money. Right now, steel arrowheads, for whatever reason, have gone through the roof, and are actually more than the mithril ones. Mithril and Addy make a decent amount of money, and whilst Rune makes a nice amount of money, as soon as you start to buy enough of them, the price goes so high it's not profitable anymore after buying 50. So I bought 100 bronze, 100 iron, 300 steel, 100 myth, 100 Addy, and 50 Rune. That's from testing it first. Don't just flat out buy that in the future, because if the prices move or the prices change, or there's someone else buying or selling to the shop, it simply won't work and you'll end up wondering why you lost money. Towards the end, there was a few rune arrowheads bought out, but I think that was probably just an Iron Man training for themselves because they're not the most profitable, so there's no reason to just buy the rune arrowheads unless you just train and fletching. It didn't cost too much either, 384,000 GP to make 232,000 profit, which is fairly decent, and over an hour that's 2.78 million GP profit. But if you have a decent cash stack, you can actually make even more than this in the top 2. And the second most profitable shop is the armor shop in Narda. Now, a lot of the items here are rune, so to buy 70 of each costs 7.6 million GP, and that's just for what I can sell in a few minutes. As usual, just going to sell 5 per world. Now, I've not gone for the steel kite shield and the black med helm, what you can do here, because there's not a lot of money in it, so it's going to slow you down a little bit, and I thought it's just better to go for the rune and the green D hide pieces. In just 3 minutes 46 seconds, those items that I bought for 7.6 million GP sold for 7.861 million. A very tasty 4.25 million GP per hour. The money for number 1 is honestly crazy for a shop, but it's going to help a ton to have a lot of money behind you. If you don't, it's still a very good money maker and you can make a few million GP per hour just buying the slightly cheaper items from here, but I used 76 million GP here in just 5 minutes. The place is the Stonemason in Kelder Grim, which sells a lot of construction supplies for top end things, and players will gladly pay a couple of thousand GP more for an item that's very expensive anyway, rather than have to come over here themselves. But if you're buying everything, it does work out at an amazing 5.64 million GP per hour, but I wouldn't even bother trying it if you don't have a few 100 million GP at least. As well as you making money, I'm trying to make max cash on my other account, where you decide what region to lock it to, and lock it to only 4 skills it can train each week. So if you like that type of thing, there'll be a link in the description below.